Welcome back, guys, to yet another World of Warcraft video on this channel. Today we are going to be going over a little bit of a tips and tricks thing for while you're boosting on a level 10 Twink. Now obviously, for the people that are interested in this, you can also check out my setup guide and also my own character in a couple of the links that I've put down in the description below. So if you're interested in that, make sure you go down there and check that out. Before we do get into the video, I want you guys to like the video and also subscribe to the channel with all the notifications on, and drop a comment down below on whether or not you're doing twinking yourself, or if this is something that you would potentially be interested in. I'd love to hear about it. But let's get into it. Something that a lot of people have been asking about recently is how that I do all these different dungeons, and I see a lot of people asking questions for how much gear do you need, what can you do, how are you supposed to run these dungeons, how can you speed this up. So what I did the other day on stream was I actually ran through a lot of these dungeons on my Twink and I talked about it. But obviously it was a little more, you know, all over the place, and I was also interacting with people on the stream. So I thought I would make a little talk over of going through these dungeons, okay? So on a level 10 Twink, if you're boosting your characters from 10 to 50, you can only go into 4 dungeons. And those 4 dungeons are Hellfire Ramparts, it's the Blood Furnace, Slave Pens, and the Underbug. And obviously this is only TBC because TBC is the fastest and the most mob dense, I guess, expansion you could say, because this is where you can find the most mobs and also the fastest dungeons. So this is where I like to personally run through it. You can also do it in Wrath, that's also a potential, but I like TBC a little more. But anyway, let's get straight into it. So as you guys can see right here, I'm running through Hellfire Ramparts. For your characters, you can place the characters that you're boosting. If you're bringing anyone along or you're some of your own characters, you can leave them at the entrance. They will get experience for the entire dungeon just standing at the entrance. That's very important. Now the second tip, and basically the only other thing that you need to know for this dungeon, is you want to be a little bit careful with pulling too many mobs because you can actually pretty easily die if some of them get, well, if you get unlucky with how they use the CC, right? The stuns, the slows, the disarms. Because if you get disarmed here, your weapon enchant does not work anymore. So you do need to be a little bit careful. As you can see, I get disarmed right here. I have to use my stun. But that's basically it. You have to be careful, and I die here and there in this dungeon because I don't pay attention, but that is pretty important. But for this dungeon, that is pretty much everything that you need to know. Now, the next one on the list that we have is the Blood Furnace. And the Blood Furnace, I recommend obviously pulling your characters with you, and you can pull them with you throughout the entire dungeon very, very easily. But you do not want to bring them into this room where the first boss is, because, and this is very important, there is a bunch of mobs in that room and some of the further rooms into the dungeon that will literally kill your ult so quickly, and you cannot keep them alive. You can't stand there and heal them properly, and it's much easier to just leave them here. Because if you leave them right here, as you can see, the Maker, or whatever his name is, the first boss, if you leave them at the beginning of this room, they will get experience in the entire dungeon all the way to the end. So they don't have to be on follow further than this room. And that's very important, because these mobs right here, these technicians, they drop bombs, they throw dynamite, and they kill your ults. So that's very important. Besides that, there's not really anything out of, you know, the ordinary that you need to be aware of in this dungeon. There's not any like quick tips or anything. That is pretty much the most important stuff. Now, when it comes to the next dungeon, which is going to be the Slave Pens. The Slave Pens is also the same. I would say for the Slave Pens, you pretty much need to bring your characters, or your ults, the ones you're boosting. You need to bring them pretty much with you throughout the entire dungeon, because it's a very long dungeon. It doesn't go in like a circle like some of the other dungeons do. So you pretty much need to bring your characters with you pretty much the whole way. Something that is important, though, to realize in this dungeon is you can skip a lot of these bosses, okay? This boss right here, Menu the Betrayer, the first boss, you can just run with him, run along in the dungeon, and get on with it. You do not need to kill this guy to get the random dungeon bonus at the end. You do not need to kill him, so you can just run along. He will evade and disengage after you jump down in the water. A little bit over here, right here. Here it is. He's not going to teleport down to you or anything. So that's very important. You also don't need to kill this big guy here. He's also useless. You don't need to do anything about him. So that doesn't matter either. You just continue along. And what I would recommend is that when you get your ults all the way here, you can leave them pretty much at the start of the entrance around here. This is the start of the entrance right before the last boss. And this is very important because you want to leave them here. And you don't want to leave them too close to the last boss because he will murder them if you don't do it correctly. So it's better to just leave them here. Now, when it comes to the actual last boss, there's a specific way that you want to fight this guy. You do not want to bring this boss all the way out of the water, because then when he uses his poison ability, his poison spray, which is like damage every 2 seconds or whatever it is, and it's a lot too, very hard to deal with, he will kill all your ults and he will potentially also kill you. So what I recommend, and this works most of the time, is fighting him on a ledge, as I try to show here. Actually, I did it on stream. Fighting him on a ledge makes the poison spray sometimes not work at all. So you can see here that I fight him almost all the way out of the water. And this way, when he uses his acid poison spray or whatever it's called, it actually doesn't hit me at all. Now we're going to wait around here until you can see here, acid spray, it doesn't do any damage to me. And normally it would for that whole duration, which is very problematic. So if you fight him on a ledge like this and you don't use too much of your energy, so you always have enough for Vivify or for healing yourself, you'll be fine on this boss. Then it's no issues at all. But a lot of people have issues with this boss specifically for that reason. So this is how I do it to get around it. Now, the Underbug is the last out of the 4 of the dungeons that you can actually do on a level 10. Now, this dungeon in particular, you can skip pretty much every single boss that is in here. And obviously there's a lot of mobs here that you want to kill because it gives a lot of experience. And again, you need to bring your characters along for pretty much the entire instance. And that is because it's a very long instance again, which means you get out of view and also distance, so your characters don't really get a lot of experience. So putting them on follow is a pretty good idea. Now, obviously, as you can see right here, you can just run by this boss here. You don't have to kill it, and you just run by it. And the same thing goes for the Hydra. I'm gonna just skip right over here. Same thing goes for this Hydra. You just run along on the platform. You do not need to kill this guy. Run along, run over it, and it's a wrap, right? And the same thing goes for this guy that comes here at the end. You do not need to kill this boss over here at the right either. You can also just skip him, and you save so much time not killing these bosses. So it's very important. Obviously, you do need to kill the last boss, right? The Black Stalker here. You do need to kill that because that's the way you get your, obviously, your random dungeon bonus. So that is something that you have to do. But besides that, there's not really anything that you have to take care of or think of. That is pretty much it. And yeah, I hope this video helped you guys out. And I also wanted to get this out here so people understand what it means to run these dungeons on a level 10 Twink. If you guys have any other questions, make sure that you drop them down in the comments below. Let me know what you think. Let me know what you want. And also, make sure that you drop a like on the video and also subscribe to the channel if you enjoyed the video. I appreciate it. But that is going to be it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. And until the next one, see you guys.